All right, well, welcome. Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's great to see a number of folks here, and we've got some parents and friends of the school and caregivers and grandparents that are here. I want to begin today's parent coffee. Hope you have your coffee. I've got mine. To welcome a few new families, the Margotons, and then Duncan and his family, Sam and Cheryl. Cole is a new Spark learner, and Duncan is joining us as a new high schooler. And would love, Lindsay, I see that you're here. Do you mind just kind of saying, hey, introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your family? I think you're on mute at the moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was talking. I didn't realize you couldn't hear me. I'm a little technologically challenged over here this morning. Thank you for the welcome. Our family just moved here we're in Peachtree City, on the edge of Peachtree City from the Decatur area a couple weeks ago. My husband Rob and I have two boys, Cole, who's in Spark, and Reese, who is about to turn 4. And we're excited to be here. Thanks for welcoming us.
You bet. Great to have you guys. And Sam, I noticed you're here too. You want to say hey and tell us a little about you and Cheryl and Duncan?
Yeah, hi. My name is Sam Rayborn. We've been in Peachtree City now about 4 years, going on 4 years. My son has been at Booth, and now he is at Macintosh. My wife Cheryl is a flight attendant for Delta Airlines. Currently, I'm a consultant, and very impressed with the school. Kind of goes full circle into the type of schooling that we were doing when we lived in Denver and before. And looking forward to seeing our son kind of blossom in your school.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Glad to have you on here. Thanks for joining us. I know it was last minute, the invite, so great to have you. We're excited about Duncan being here and Cole as well. I'm recording this parent coffee so we can share with folks who weren't able to make it. The format of this morning is we're going to take 2 phases. The first will be for us as parents and caregivers to kind of discuss this topic here, how to get unstuck so that we can pursue meaningful goals. And we'll actually do it ourselves so that we might be able to do it later with our children. And we'll spend the bulk of our time doing that. And then I'll transition to the end for phase 2 and sort of give some announcements about the school, some details for next year, referring to the email that I sent this morning, and open it up for any questions we have time. We'll end at 9:40 a.m. Eastern for those who are not on the East Coast at the moment. But again, welcome. So we will, by the way, go into breakout rooms 3 times during this first part. We'll be in small groups for a little bit of discussion. But I'm curious if any of these sound familiar from your children. I don't know what I want to do, or I want to do something, but I have no idea how to do that or even how to start, or just straight up, I'm bored, or I can't, or I just don't want to, I'm not interested. Or have you ever felt that way? The goal of this morning is to equip you as parents and caregivers with a set of questions and a process that you might be able to use both for yourself and for your children to potentially get unstuck and identify some barriers that might be in your way or your child's way that you don't even know about yet. And we're going to use the tool of possible selves theory. And this comes from developmental theory. And I have found it, I've used it with my own children a number of times. And I have found it to be helpful and hope you do as well. Possible selves, if I were to give a high level summary, means what we think about when we think about ourselves in the future. And this includes our hoped for selves, which is basically like what we hope to become in the future, as well as what we hope to avoid becoming, our feared selves, and then what we expect ourselves to become. And so the first question that I want to invite us really to consider is, when we think about the future, who do we want to become? And you might think about this from a number of different dimensions. You might think about the domain of career, 2, 5, 10 years from now in the future, whenever. What do you hope to be true about you and your career? What about family? Who do you hope to be in your family? Physical health, who do you hope to become? Financial and spiritual. And actually, what I want to do is I actually want to invite you in breakout rooms to just kind of riff a little bit with one another and talk about your own future self and what you aspire to be in the future. And like I said, we're going to do this together and practice it together so that we can potentially turn around and do it with our children. So that's the prompt. I'm going to send you. I'm going to form the breakout rooms right now. Before I go to the breakout rooms for 5 minutes, any questions about what the discussion prompt is? How does the school show students this? Yep, we'll get to that at the end, but that's going to be it's typically through check-ins that we do this. So great question. Any others? All right. So I'm going to create breakout rooms, and I'm going to invite you all in now for 5 minutes and just kind of introduce yourself and talk about in the future, who do you hope to be? And you can choose any of those domains. You don't have to do all of them. Just choose any domain that's interesting to you. I'll go ahead and send you now. And Belinda and Thurston, I just assigned you guys to rooms. Alex, are you able to get into a room? I've got you in room 5 if you're able and wanting to join.
using up all our time.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I know that's not enough time, but I'm going to give you a chance to go a little bit deeper. Hopefully you had a chance to at least start the brainstorming of and discussing of your future self. So part of what this theory suggests is that finding, naming, and addressing the barriers to our future self, both the ones that we think are barriers, as well as like actual real barriers to becoming our future hoped for selves. But finding those and naming those and addressing them can improve our self-expectations. This can improve our identity development, and it can even improve our learning and our employment-related outcomes. And so the way that these developmental theorists suggest that you try and uncover the barriers is you ask a pretty tough question at this point. And the question is, okay, so this is what you want to be. Now, what are you actually doing right now to be that way in the future? So it's not just aspirational. It's like, here's what I'm actually doing this week or today or this month or this year or whatever it is. So I want to invite you back into the breakout rooms for 5 minutes to discuss that. When you think about your future hope for self, what is it, what is that? And then what are you doing right now to be that way in the future? And maybe that will begin to unearth some barriers, some things that kind of stand in your way, and potentially some things that maybe you're not doing that maybe you could be doing. So before I send you to the breakout room, any questions about the prompt? What are you doing now? Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes, and I'll see you in 5.
Zones too.
Hey there, welcome back. Again, I know it's not enough time for discussion, but did anyone hear from someone in their group something inspiring about a story of someone who wants to be something in the future and something compelling or inspiring that they're doing right now about it that they would share? Or if it's maybe something you're doing right now to be the kind of person you want to be in the future. What did you hear that inspired you? I'm a
Hey,
teacher.
Tyler.
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Go ahead. Okay, it touched me a little bit. It wasn't, I couldn't hear the long story, but one person in our group think has challenging situation. His wife passed away for cancer. So I felt like, I don't know, it must be difficult because you still have all the challenges and goals and raising, your kids and trying to keep enjoying life as he shows he's trying to appreciate what he has now while he's here. So that touched me a lot, like make you appreciate all our lives and our health and all the things that we have today.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. So just you heard someone living, like being grateful in the moment and appreciating life. Did anyone else hear something inspiring? So I think I heard somebody else come off mute.
I heard two different individuals that basically were either starting a new private practice. One was starting a new private practice for mental health care, which was really cool and such a needed thing right now. And then another individual was already in the healthcare profession, but was going back to school to learn ways that she could do more in the future, which was pretty inspiring.
So far I've heard, just expressing gratitude, pursuing more schooling, actually starting a new business, starting a new practice is something that people are doing right now to be the way they want to be in the future. Anything else somebody would add?
Hey, Tyler.
Yes.
Well, hey, everybody. But I think two things from you. One was that people recognize what they actually recognize, like, okay, hey, I want to do better with this. So this is what I feel like I need to do. Like, I feel like being aware is like the very first step. And then two, also giving themselves grace while going through the process and, trusting the process and the journey.
Great to hear beautiful kids in the background, and glad Carter's doing well, Fantasia. So you're talking about being aware, having that self-awareness and giving yourself grace in the process. That's beautiful. So what we've done so far is really only half of the exercise that we can do to consider and really live into possible selves theory, and that we can do with our children. There's another part that I want to introduce you to, and it's not your hoped for self, it's actually your feared self, and thinking about what you are afraid of becoming. And so this theory would suggest that your feared self is the kind of person that you fear becoming or that you worry about being. It's defined by the personality traits you think you might become in the future, but you'd rather not become. It's not necessary that you have these traits right now, only that you want to avoid having them in the future. And so the questions to reflect on, and these are the ones I'm going to invite you to discuss for the last time in your groups, is when you think about these different domains, who do you hope to avoid becoming? And are you doing something right now to be that way? Sort of looking at taking an honest look inward. And if yes, like what can I do now to avoid becoming this way in the future as you think through these domains? And I'm also going to drop this prompt in the chat just so you have it. So these are the discussion questions. Who do I hope to avoid becoming? And am I doing something to be that way right now? And if yes, so it's almost like a confession, but if yes, what can I do now to avoid becoming this way? Any questions about the prompt before I send you to breakout groups for the last time? Okay. I'm going to put 8 minutes on the clock for this one. And see ya. All right, welcome back. Did anyone, I'm curious, name a barrier that they perceive as a barrier? It might not actually be real, but it's something that they perceive as a barrier. Did anyone name one of those? Or even a real barrier? Did anyone name a real barrier that they're facing in terms of who they want to avoid becoming?
Tyler, I feel like our group named a barrier in that in the Western culture, we're faced with the like American dream and what success looks like, and those images are just prevalent everywhere you turn. And so our group seemed to agree that that faced a barrier for most everybody in America.
That's a great example of a barrier. Are there others? Thank you, Kathy.
We talked about the footprints that our parents and grandparents had laid down in front of us. And, you know, those could be predictors for the future. And we could look at it and say, yeah, this is the direction we want to go, or I'm not going down that road.
Yeah. Could be a barrier, could be an empower, an enabler. That's great. Well, just a few, for the sake of time, appreciate y'all discussing in the breakout rooms a few key points about this theory, and then just how you might use it with your children. You know, the one key point is that our own images of ourselves in the future can impact the journeys in life that we end up taking. And these researchers argue that there's a really strong connection between, on the one hand, what we think about when we think about our future selves, and on the other hand, whether or not we actually attain our goals, or whether or not we actually avoid risky behaviors. One of the advantages of being young for our children right now, these researchers argue, is that it's actually a time when they can try on different possible selves without suffering you know, a whole lot of negative impact. And I'll bet you could think of ways in which your children are trying on different possible selves. I mean, one of my children right now is like trying on different names, actually. Another key point of this theory is these advantages in youth, they can actually be thwarted. And the value of this possible selves theory is helping young people identify and overcome that thwarting. And so if I could put it simply, a possible theory of change for us as parents and caregivers is if we guide our children to imagine their hoped for selves and their feared selves, and we just let them talk about it, you know, let them say the things, then we can help them identify and overcome barriers to becoming who they want to become. So one of the things I'm going to do is, after this parent coffee, I'm going to email everybody this possible selves questionnaire, which is a little activity. You could print it out. It's a printable, and you could actually do it with your children at home. And I actually, a few years ago, and it basically walks them through the questions that we just walked through together in our small groups, and helps them, it kind of draws out of them some of what they think about their future self and their feared self in the future, what they're doing now to be that way, what they're doing now to avoid becoming that way, where there are some gaps, and where there might be some barriers. In fact, this is an example I did with one of my kids about 4 years ago. We kind of named a bunch of different domains. I took the ones from the forum and I added friends and I added free time. My child in this moment, you know, they articulated their future self, and then they identified things they felt like they were doing right now. And they actually walked away from the meeting pretty encouraged. But there was one in financial, you can see there, you know, they envision not being rich, but not penniless. They want to have a house, basic needs, and food. And when I asked, hey, what are you doing right now to be that way? They were like, nothing. And so it was a moment for this child to identify, oh, this is what I want to be, but I'm actually not doing anything to get there. And it was an aha moment for them, and they came to it on their own. It wasn't me telling them, oh, you need to be, you know, doing more chores for allowance, or like making a, you know, side hustle or getting a job. They came to it on their own. And so the handout, the printable I'm going to give you, will empower you hopefully to kind of walk your children through that if you want. So just before we kind of get into announcements, like, what do you think about this possible selves theory? Any questions? Any thoughts? How useful is this? Can you imagine using this with your kids? What do you think?
Hey, everybody, again. I think it's amazing. I think that tools like this and just seeing the word unstuck in that title today was amazing, because I think a lot of people, children and adults, go through this so much. And as adults, we go through for ourselves, but then, you know, recognizing how to help our children get unstuck at an early age is so important for them. And we think about ourselves and say, wow, if I had this information then, you know, how prepared could I be? So I think it's awesome. Thank you for the resources and the tools.
Totally. Glad to hear you feel like it's helpful. What do others think?
You know, Tyler, you know that I'm a evangelist for family learning. And fundamentally what I think this is an opportunity. It's what I call a learning access model. It's an opportunity for a family to really have a meaningful conversation about their own growth and development, not only individually, but as a family.
Mm.
And I believe so strongly that when families learn together, amazing things happen, regardless of the stage of life that you're in, whether it's the grandparent, the parent, child. And I just think it's a good vehicle, and I appreciate you sharing it.
Thank you, Dr. Drake. That's great that it lives in the context of the greater family, potentially even friends and mentors, you know, coaches, pastors, rabbis, imams. Other thoughts or questions?
I put mine in the chat if you could reply to that.
Let's see. How does the school identify the barriers students have and help those close the gap? And how does the school help guide the students? Yeah, there's a number of Heidi's signature learning experiences the school has that endeavor to do these things. I think for us, a lot of this lives in check-ins that happen with the heroes on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, where guides are basically asking questions like this and having deeper conversations and helping learners think through their challenges, helping them think through their goals. I think there are other avenues, but I do think check-ins is probably the biggest place where that happens. In fact, one of the things I'm going to be publishing soon on our blog is a list of all the questions that our guides usually ask during the check-ins with our learners from the earliest stages all the way through our seniors. Because again, I think being asked complex, self-reflective questions, you know, is such an incredible developmental tool. So thanks for that question. And then I got another comment here in the chat. I think this tool makes it easier and less fearful to address barriers that hinder who we want to be. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you for your ideas and feedback, and happy to, like I said, send along the activity after this is over with. I want to transition now to some announcements. First of all, you know, despite being amidst COVID, we have a number of really great apprenticeships that our middle and high schoolers are pursuing right now. I want to just name some of them for you. This isn't even all of them. But Brown University Dermatology, Rental Property Investment, 1023 Construction here at Trilith. There's an individual, one of our seniors, who's enthusiastically pursuing an acting career immediately after high school. Just did an apprenticeship with a woman who has a special that just came out on Apple Plus and on Netflix. Architecture, a stunt person, the Georgia Tax Credit Program, investing in stocks, the West Side Cultural Foundation, orthodontic surgery, building generational wealth. Let's go Fantasia in Austin. Thank you for being an apprentice. Nutritional wellness, video editing. A number of you actually are the hosts of some of these learners with your businesses, so thank you. My team and I at the Forest School continue to together explore how we might, as an organization, really accelerate our growth to becoming fully anti-racist and multicultural. That work is ongoing. We've been meeting monthly, even 3 or 4 times a month to discuss this. and the learning and conversation has been really rich and deep. And I look forward to sharing our takeaways with you as time goes on. Quest that we have going on right now, we have our Spark learners are learning all about the human body, and next week are going to be sharing their drawings of the human body and sort of describing their understanding at this moment in time of the human anatomy. We've got our elementary learners who today are pitching to Rob Parker, the CEO of the town at Trilith, their designs for a bridge that would go from Trilith Studios to the town at Trilith. And so that they're going to get great feedback. We're going to record that feedback and then show that feedback at exhibition next week. So you all as elementary parents can see it. And then middle and high schoolers are helping design the golf cart paths here in the city of Fayetteville, and potentially connecting them to Peachtree City. In fact, we still need a few judges. If you're a parent and willing and interested to be a judge for these pitch competitions, there's a few slots on Monday and Wednesday of next week from 8:45 to 12:15 on Monday, and then February from 9 to 12 on Wednesday. And just reach out to me directly if that's something that you're interested in. In addition, our school and our institute has published a landscape analysis, a report basically that describes, hey, what is self-directed learning? What do we know about it? What are the best practices, and what do we not know yet as an education field, and where do we need to learn more? And we're going to be sharing that publicly in the next few weeks. You all will have a chance to read it. It's very long. It's over 60, 70 pages. So we have a 4-pager for those of you who are like executive summaries. But I just want to let you know that the Forest School team has been asked to share about this report and this learning at a number of different places, not limited to Harvard, the University of Pennsylvania, Transcend, which is a national nonprofit and school redesign where I used to work, the National Association of Independent Schools, which is not an organization that we, the Forest School, are a part of, but it is our nation's membership institute for about 1,700 private schools in the United States, and then the Christensen Institute, founded by the late Clay Christensen of Harvard Business School. So our team is going to have a chance to share about that, which is exciting. I do want to let you know as well, we have a team change. Sarah Farrell is awesome and helped us start the school from a bookkeeping perspective. And many of you have emailed and dealt with Sarah over the years, and she's been incredible. And she's going to be stepping down. And we've transitioned after a search, identified Monica Fullerton as the individual to take over Sarah's role. Sarah is gracious enough to take the next few months and onboard Monica slowly to our bookkeeping processes. But as we go through this re-enrollment season and then tuition and all that next year, Monica will be the go-to rather than Sarah. So I want to make you aware of that. Also, Kathy, you want to give a quick word about Gigi?
Yes, I would love to. So many of you know Joan Thigpen, actually Tyler's mom, who the learners affectionately refer to as Gigi. Gigi often volunteers at the school and is super helpful, and she loves learning, and she has done so much for our heroes. So she's having a birthday on Monday, and we're hoping to celebrate her. If you are able to have your learner just make a homemade card or a little note or something on Monday, and we're going to bring in some cake and just have a little celebration for her. She's going to come in, and I believe she's coming in around 2:45 on Monday.
Yep. Thanks, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, you can look for a phone call from 2 of our learners and/or Rebecca, one of our team members, to invite you to participate in the Georgia Tax Credit Program, which literally costs you nothing. It's an opportunity for you to actually decide where you send your tax money. And I hope you'll consider participating, as this is our key lever for making economic diversity happen here at the Forest School. And then this morning, I sent out an email to you all about how to re-enroll your family for the Forest School for next year, if that's something that you want to do. We would love to have you. Key dates to look at are March 1 and April 1. This is similar to our processes in years past. Tuition for the school year is $10,390. It will be different for 4-year-olds because that's only a half day. And so we're still crunching the numbers on that, and we'll circle back to let you know what that tuition will be. It's been our goal since our inception to not increase tuition beyond the rate of inflation. And so The number you see here is representative of that goal as well. You'll also see our calendar for next year. Thank you to those of you who had input on that. We're looking at a very similar year next year to the one we had this year, beginning in August 2 and ending in June 3. Again, our thinking with our calendar, it's a unique way of thinking about a school calendar. It's still the required 180 days here in the state of Georgia. But similar how we as professionals at work will maybe do a project with a team and kind of go hard on that project for 4 to 7 weeks and then take a break and transition to something else. That's sort of how we think about school. Is we'll go hard on a quest, for 4 to 7 weeks, really 3 to 8 weeks, depending on the calendar, and then take a week break. And then it makes for shorter summers, but it makes for more breaks during the year. And the shorter summer actually helps us. There's a phenomenon in education called summer melt, which means there is some learning loss when you're not at school over a long period of time, as if the sun were sort of melting away the learning. And in a calendar like this, anecdotally, learners tend to be less stressed during the year, and then less learning is lost over the course of the summer. So that calendar you can see there, and it's on our website as well. And then in my email as well, I respond to a comment from last week's feedback, which we're always grateful for. In terms of growth projections for next year, we started out as a school with 1 elementary studio and 1 middle school studio and 1 high schooler, 31 heroes. Our second year, we had 1 elementary school studio, 1 middle, and 1 high, 56 heroes. This year, we added Spark. We added younger learners, kindergarten, and then created the Spark Studio, kindergarten, first and second grade. And then had 1 elementary, 1 middle, and 1 high. We have 111 heroes right now, and which was a lot of growth. And the next year, we're going to have a lot less growth. We're going to have max probably around 125 heroes. Our Spark program is going to be different next year in that it will be ages 4, 5, and 6, ages 4-year-olds. There'll be max 6 4-year-olds in our Spark studio. It'll be primarily 5 and 6-year-olds. The 4-year-olds will be there for a half day, likely 8:30 a.m. to noon. And then our 5 and 6-year-olds will be there for a full day. It'll be our Spark studio next year, will be even more Montessori. Right now it's about a third Montessori, but I think next year, because we have younger ages, we're actually probably going to do about 75% Montessori. And then in the afternoons, we'll do some quest and storytelling with our older learners. And then we're going to have 2 elementary studios. So we will be hiring for an elementary guide. If you know someone and would like to include them in that process, we'll also be hiring for another apprentice guide. And so if you know folks, we welcome that. But in our experience, so you'll notice grade 2 or age 7 will actually be advanced to the elementary studio, grades 7 through 10. So those of you who are new to the school, so our elementary studio historically has actually had 6 through 10-year-olds and even a 5-year-old at one point. But we have just found with our learning model that there's something about the age of 7 that second grade that tends to be a moment where the signature learning experiences that we've designed for the elementary studio just really work well and work best. And so we're excited about advancing our second graders into the elementary studios. There'll be 2 of them. There'll be mixed ages, ages 7 through 10. And then we'll maintain 1 middle school studio and 1 high school studio. And our high school studio will be even bigger next year because we have a number of middle schoolers moving up. And then our middle school studio will be about the same size as it is this year. I'm in discussion with Trilith Production Center about increasing the footprint that we have there. Right now we have 7,440 square feet in that space, and we are going to be we're looking at procuring at least 9,300 square feet to accommodate the 14 extra heroes that we would add. We don't know exactly where that's going to be yet, but for us, what's really critical is just being able to maintain that security and allow learners to have access to the outdoors. And again, that's our temporary home. Longer term, we're grateful that Trilith, the town at Trilith, is donating land to the school, and we're in discussions about that. We're in the process of wrapping up a feasibility study to figure out how much money we can raise from our community and from local and national foundations in order to build a building for the school and for the institute. And pretty soon, we're going to start raising funds to be able to build that building just as soon as possible, and as quickly as possible, frankly. But we're excited about that long-term space as well. That having been said, what questions do you have? We've got about 3 minutes left, which is not a lot, but happy to field some questions. Dr. Drake, I see that. Can you send the self-directed learning landscape report? Absolutely. I'm happy to send y'all, and I can attach this to the email, an early version of that. It's not public yet, so I would just ask that you don't share it yet, but I will add that to my to-do list. Other questions?
Tyler, what is the early estimate for when the new building will actually be constructed and the students will be able to start using it?
I need another month to answer that question, only because I literally had a phone call yesterday with Cox Curry, who's helping us with a strategy and timeline for that. And we committed yesterday to making that timeline over the next 2 months. So I need a little bit of time before I can give that. And it's really based on what we, thanks to our research, what we feel like our capacity is, to be able to raise that money. But again, for me, it's as quickly as possible. Next year we're definitely going to be in, next year we're definitely going to be in the, where we are now. So if you, so at either the next parent coffee, Kathy, or the parent coffee after that, I should have a more clear timeline.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Will there be a way to learn more about the changes to the Spark Studio with bringing in the 4-year-olds and transitioning out the 7-year-olds, just to understand more about how that's going to work?
Yes, absolutely, Lindsay. I'm actually going to put together, I haven't decided if it's going to be a Zoom or a Facebook Live, where folks can ask questions and we can discuss all those things. But absolutely, Lindsay. And another place too that we're describing that, though I don't think you need to show up for this, is our open houses. We had a really successful open house last Sunday, virtually, and then another virtual open house this Sunday from 3 to 4. And we talk about it there, but I'm going to put something together internally, Lindsay, for Spark families who have children of that age, as well as elementary who are second graders. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions?
Yeah, Tyler, when you build the new school, and I know this is probably premature, but just how big do you think this is going to get?
The school, we really don't plan on admitting more than 150 students total. So we plan on remaining small. And we strive for somewhere between 80 to 110 square foot per child. So I would say that's a nice range to consider when thinking about the size of the school, square footage wise.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. Well, maybe one more question. Y'all, great to have you here this morning. Really great turnout. Really appreciate you leaning in, sharing your stories and yourselves and your families with one another and with me. And it's an honor to serve alongside you guys with your children and your families as they pursue their hero's journey. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.